As usual, it is my privilege and pleasure to come and spend these few moments of your time. The laws that govern the physical reality are mirrored within the metaphysical world as well. So it is that everything comes to existence with its own personal reflection. Whatever manifests in the physical world also manifests its opposite kind. So it is that, shall we say, the law of polarity begins to assert itself. But in doing so, each side of the polarity is endowed with a certain charge. The charges then are opposite to one another. In other words, whatever, shall we say, spins in one direction, its opposing part spins in the opposite direction. So it is then that we say like attracts like. And of course, that is, it is like or attracts its identical polarized charge. So whatever it is, shall we say, that one wants to draw to oneself is charged in one direction, and that which is attracting into it will bear the opposite charge. And that is why this is the law of magnetism. And shall we say one other consideration is in the world of magnetics, time is of no consequence whatsoever. So one often thinks that when one creates one's reality, when one attracts, then one somehow has to wait in the side for it to come, as if the creation is not an instantaneous flow. So shall we begin with some conversation, some questions, so we can begin to explore this phenomenon together.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mercredan, for being with us here today. Our first question is, how can one apply the law of magnetism to attract what we want in our lives?
Shall we say, first of all, one has to have something, shall we say, that is energized. One wants to draw from the, shall we say, from the metaphysical universe. One wants to draw it towards oneself. That means that one, first of all, has to charge the desire, that is in a negative fashion. That is, the desire is something one does not already have. Most people, of course, are not desiring anything. They are trying to avoid the opposite. So shall we take an example? You want to have a nice relationship. But what truly you are putting out is, I do not want to have some horrible relationship. I would sooner be by myself. And there it is, exactly as you commanded. To follow what I mean. So the universe, consciousness follows the commands that it is given. And this is so very useful, because if one is careful to perceive what one has, one will automatically be told what one is charging the universe with, what is the command one has given. Does that shine some light?
Yes. Yes, it does. Sorry. Yes, it does. Thank you. So is the law of magnetism the same as the law of attraction?
The law of magnetism is exactly the same as the law of attraction, with the corollary that it is recognizing polarity and charge. Because if you think that you can have something, shall we say, you are imagining that you have what you already want, then why would the universe give that to you? But if you are imagining that you do not have what you want, then you have created, shall we say, a space in consciousness to be fulfilled. That is, you have created a negative environment. Because, of course, everybody so dislikes the idea of negativity, as if that can be avoided. But of course not. Everything that has a positive charge will find somewhere in the universe its negative opposite. But when one does not avoid living, one is ready to explore both sides of the coin of polarity and learn to operate with charges. Shall we say this? The greater the charge that one has, the greater the energy pull, shall we say, it exerts. We already know that. But if you have a charge upon yourself and you are interacting with something with the same charge, it will push it away. So it is partially that one that the law of attraction is not truly dealing with the nature of polarity and the nature of energetic charge. And as a result, then one has minimal charge, that is minimal attraction, and also one has increased the idea of allowing the time to pass. And so as a result, instantaneous opportunities are ignored because I am waiting for the right person, as if, or the right thing. I am wanting it to fit with something that is, shall we say, ill-formed. Nothing ill-formed can fit with something that has a deliberate form. Do you follow what I mean? It is trying to fit something into a whole that is not made for it.
Thank you. So how do we then create more of a charge for something that we want?
There are two things that are essential to understand. That is the principles of desire and the principles surrounding resistance. Here is an interesting concept, because you have the saying, what you resist persists. In other words, whatever you resist is charged up to come into your world. How is it that you can charge a resistance so thoroughly and yet be, shall we say, less vital with one's desires? Does that make sense? So, shall we say, it is the charge is brought about, shall we say, one creates a blueprint in the mind and one charges it up with, shall we say, the astral body, the emotional field, the heart is in its desires. What will this bring? How will you feel when you have first encountered it? If you think that suddenly it is all available, not just partially, not something, shall we say, that almost fits the bill, but what will it be like when you are overwhelmed with suddenly being delivered? Do you follow what I mean? Because then you are filled with what is called the Holy Spirit. Do you follow what I mean? The Holy Spirit is the nature of divine charges. Then, of course, whatever it is that you wish is brought to bear, with the proviso that first of all, you deserve it. If you are holding ideas that you are not worthy, then that will take precedence. You will find that you can almost have it, but not quite, because you are not truly ready for it. You understand? So it is all of the ideas and beliefs about what it is, how it fits, what your charge is, how much you is going to benefit. But if it is something that is, shall we say, holds some ideas, some beliefs that will not truly benefit the whole being, then it will create inner conflict. You understand? So people so often want physical things. They want to have more money. More money, of course, will not benefit the whole, because then you have to hold on to it, you have to protect it, you have all these other needs, and in the meantime, energy is flowing into things that are less important to the whole being. Does this make some sort of sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. So, can you give us an example then of how we can use the law of magnetism to manifest new love relationships into someone's life?
First of all, decide whether what you wish to have a relationship with. In other words, in your modern world, there are all sorts of relationships. Shall we take an example? One wants to be in a same-sex relationship. Then one of you has to become polarized into, shall we say, the receiver. That is the one who is gaining the love, and the other is giving the love. Do you understand? There is a charge that has to appear. So you have to either find one person who will be, shall we say, as you normally aspire, as, shall we call it, the masculine quality. Then one becomes polarized into the feminine quality. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Because otherwise, if both people want to occupy the same polarity, the charges will simply push them apart. Sometimes it is possible for those people to swap polarities during in certain conditions, but even that will have challenging moments. Do you understand? Even so, if one wants to build a truly strong relationship, decide on the polarity you wish to express, and then choose and draw in someone from the opposite polarity. Now I want to add something else. If you have done this, stop complaining that they are not doing what they are supposed to do, because this is part of the qualities. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if one truly then decides to hold one's, shall we say, birth-given polarity, then how is it to be that gender, as it were? Because the more potentized as that gender you are, the greater the attraction will be for someone who is, shall we say, expressing the opposite gender potentials. Do you follow what I mean? The more you share the middle ground, the less charge there will be, and then, shall we say, the less attraction, and the energy of attraction is called love in this situation. So, shall we say, the more one loves someone from one's position, one's charge, the more one will be given love in return. But they are not going to be the same expression of love, because this is a world of polarity. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can you also give us an example about how we could use the law of magnetism to manifest more money into our lives?
More money comes with more service. You understand? If one is charged to be honorable, that is to honor self and others, then first of all, one will give value. And in return, one will ask for the value that one has given. In other words, it is a transaction of equals. If one, shall we say, asks more than what one is truly of value, then of course they will create imbalance, and the imbalance will draw to it inequalities in other aspects of life. Nobody gets away with unbalancing the divine order. If societies begin to unbalance that, then societies begin to break down. And the results are social disorder. Humankind have forgotten such principles, forgotten that the law of magnetism requires energy to flow in balanced order. Whatever the universe creates on one polarity, an equal and opposite one will be manifest at the same time. So, shall we say, in the physical terms, this is called the law of conservation. And so often it is misunderstood in terms of the levels of conservativeness, as if holding on to the old mechanisms is the right thing to do, even when it causes imbalance. But nature also says everything develops. So the laws have to be kept alive.
Thank you. So, are we really creating our entire reality? And if so, what about the trauma that we are born into?
The idea of birth, one comes in a totally newborn with no past. But of course, that is not anything like the truth, even if we have to give more of a, shall we say, presentation here. Birth, then, is the opening of a door into a new room. So you arrive in the new room with, shall we say, issues that were not completed the last time around. So often human beings have gone through all sorts of events. They have been the subject of, and the perpetrators too, all sorts of horrors, as it were, over lifetimes. And as I have pointed out, at the end of the epoch, as humankind is getting prepared for such a shifting consciousness, the old karmas of ancient times have to be put to rest. And the only way one puts to rest a lesson is by learning it. So what appears on the surface to be a world filled with horrors and traumas and so forth is simply the completion of ageless, unfinished reserves, as it were. So each person reviews their internal aspects, as it were, and chooses which challenge they might deal with in this life. Nobody is given more than they are capable of dealing with. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What practical guidance, tools, exercises, or questions can you advise us on that will help us stop and ask ourselves, that will help us stop in creating the things that we don't want to create in life?
When you are fully aware, then one does not resist anything. One sees what is coming in, what one is creating, in the sense of avoidance. What is it that I do not want to experience? And then, shall we say, experience it. You understand? Put yourself into the position where you are experiencing what that is. Because when one has experienced something, it is complete. It did not turn up for no reason at all. It turned up because you are creating it. You are creating it for the purpose of dealing with it. But it does not have to be physicalized. It does not have to be in concrete terms. So first of all, find yourself in that situation. How would you best move forward? What would, shall we say, be the divine plan? What would an ascended master do in such circumstances? You find, because each one has been through this. In the stories, it says that the great master was taken into the desert and tested by the satanic force. But is just another way of saying all of his challenges were brought to him in a place where there were no external resources. And so he was tested. And so he discovers inside what gifts of forgiveness how he can not fall to the temptation, not arise to the anger and depressions and all the rest of it, but simply to explore it and find their own internal resource. He is becoming resourceful, filled with all of it. Now, when you look at the realm that you are exploring, you will find there is no attraction, no fear of creating something you do not want, because you have fulfilled the primary purpose. Now you can create that which will fulfill oneself, will bring you greater gifts. That is, as with the great master, these are not material gifts as much as they are gifts of the soul, mostly called resource. To recognize opportunities, to recognize one's potentials, and to act upon them without self-doubt. Do you understand what I mean? So when one truly touches that which you fear you might create, that which you want to avoid at all costs, paradox is that one approaches it and engages with it. It is like jumping out of the aeroplane. One is at the doorway, the wind is blowing, it is a long way down, one's fears are uppermost, and then one jumps. First of all, panic, and then there is an updraft. You understand, you are uplifted. And when you reach the ground, you find the fear has gone and the excitement is already wanting to go again. You understand, for the excitement. Isn't that what everybody has experienced?
Thank you. Earlier you talked about when we're trying to create something, or we want to create something using the law of magnetism, we need to allow for space or create space for that thing that we desire to come into our life. What happens if we are already in a situation like a job that we don't like and we want to create a new job? Do we need to let go of the job that we already have to make space for a new one to come along?
In the mind, of course, one has to recognize that the, shall we say, the present job is holding the space. You understand, it is simply in the space to hold it. One has not charging that up. One is neutral. You understand, when one's energy is neutral to something, shall we say, it simply holds no charge. So you are not resisting it, you are not demanding a replacement, you are simply putting yourself in the optimum position and recognizing that the old will dissolve away because it is not real. It is just a holding space. Does that make some sort of sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. My next question is, physical magnetics are measured by strength in Gauss meters. Is there a similarity for psychic mechanisms or magnetisms, should I say?
Of course. The energy one feels. You have walked into a room and you can feel it. There are people in there who are attracted to each other. They cannot hide it. It is traveling across the room in as solid a fashion as if you could see it. You understand what I mean? So the resonance of one's own being realizes what one is attracted to. Do you understand? One already has that attraction. The question then is whether you have seeing it, your perception is one of having the attraction fulfilled, that is, one already has it, or it is an empty space, that is, you have created the negative position for it to fill. Let us give an example of this. You are in a happily married relationship, and you walk into the room and you see there is somebody you are attracted to. But when you see them, you realize that the image that comes in there is positively charged because that role is fulfilled. It doesn't need to be replaced. Do you understand what I mean? So even while one recognizes one is attracted, it is nothing to be acted out upon. It simply says that you have, shall we say, an understanding of the nature of the universe, that there are things that will pull you and things that will not. That is not to say that the other person would not want to draw you in, because they are not fulfilled. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you. My next question is, we think, therefore we are. Do our thoughts have a charge that brings what we think towards us?
Everything will have some form of charge. The dependency is only on, shall we say, the strength, how much one has given to the desire. So, shall we say, often one is simply not that, shall we say, interested. One is not creating it by charging it up. In other words, shall we say, one is trying to start one's car. Let us say the battery is not enough. So the motor almost doesn't turn over at all. But the battery has some charge in it, just not enough. in order to get it to work again, one has to charge it up. So everything has some charge, but one has to give it enough impetus, enough energy to bring into your field that which it is representative of. Does that follow?
Yeah, thank you. Do the male and female energies have positive and negative charge? Is that why there are attractions? Is that why there are the attractions and animal magnetism? I know we've already covered a little bit of this, but
of course. What else do you think it is? The question is, shall we say, related to convention. Somehow you think that the masculine is positively charged, and then you have all of those added details as if this is the good side and negative is not to be conceived of. What nonsense! You understand what I mean? The two are balanced, and there is a fundamental difference. If one wanted to put a conventional notation, then the female would be positively charged. That is because it is from the female perspective that all things are given birth. It is from that that it comes into being, from, shall we say, the vastness. Then the masculine is what you would call the electron, flying around the outside, tiny, but potentized. Do you understand? So the masculine energy is irrelevant, but contains the potential. You understand? You want to have a child, then the feminine has all of the accoutrements except for the potential. Then she requires the masculine to deliver, shall we say, the potential. Then nature unfolds. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. Thank you. If one is following a compass, the north and south poles are reliable until you get to the Bermuda Triangle. What is with the Bermuda Triangle?
The universe is filled with stories. The question is, of course, there are magnetic anomalies all over the planet. The North Pole and the South Pole of your planet are wandering. They are demonstrating that there is not a fixed identity for either pole. They are wanderers. They find new spaces, and of course there are also the anomalies along the way. So when we try to make a law fixed, it has its own anomalies. Does that make some sort of sense? Because as I have pointed out, the highest law is the law of paradox. Try to make something fit exactly as if you can nail it down, and it will create an anomaly. So there are places all over the planet where the compass is, shall we say, less than reliable. And of course, it is affected by so many other energetic streams. When the sun is ejecting its, shall we say, its magnetic fields, and do you think the Earth's magnetic field is not disturbed, distorted, and a new anomaly appears, even if for a short period of time? The universe is dynamic. You are dynamic within it. So when one is alive, one, shall we say, understands and interacts with the dynamic nature of oneself. So some moments in history, some moments in your life, you are more potentized to creating certain experiences, and other times potentized to different ones. So there is an interrelationship. This is because the universe is not, it is paradoxical in the sense that everyone creates their own reality in a co-creation. How can that possibly be? How could it possibly be that someone can create their own world while the rest of everything is having to meet the order? Do you understand what I mean? It is seemingly an impossibility. And that is where the law of attraction, the law of paradox applies itself.
Thank you. Why are we attracting these weather patterns? What is the underlying thoughts from mankind?
As I have pointed out before, the internal weather and the external weather are in cahoots, shall we say. They are one and the same thing. So humankind has polarized itself in order to, shall we say, bring about, shall we say, everyone wants to win. So you see this with all of your political and religious organizations. Everyone wants to win. And the truth is, none of them can win while the planet itself is at risk. Do you understand? So internally, there is so much internalized rage. People are raged because they blame someone else. It is, shall we say, it is the Muslims, it is the Christians, it is the Jews, it is the Africans, it is the immigrants, it is the right wing, it is the left wing, it is, and on and on and on and on it goes. because nobody wants to own up to their own failings, to co-create a universe for the benefit of all. And yet, within the realm of the hopeful, the universe oversees it all anyway. So if you are not creating in line for the benefit of all, one will create one thing and cause another. Do you follow what I mean? The polarities will be balanced, the charges will be balanced, and so forth. So it is, do you understand? So the shift in consciousness is arriving because at a certain point there is, shall we say, the breakdown of organization that upholds such madness.
Thank you. Is there
And
a way
so
that we... Oh, sorry.
I want to say, and so it is that everyone is on notice. Uplift yourself, bring yourself to the highest degree. Put aside your hatreds and your rages and your blames and so forth. And recognize that it is I that created it all. I that created the traumas of my life. I that am repeating them over and over. It is I that have a problem. And I can solve it if I trust myself.
Okay, thank you. Is there a way that we can read within our body, that in a way that we can feel within our body or read it, that lets us know that we have created for the whole and that it will benefit the collective and Mother Earth?
Isn't that already obvious? Everybody knows that inherently it is. The divine does not withhold anything from anyone when it is beneficial to the whole. If one, shall we say, creates a life with lots of finance, shall we say, and then one uses the excess that you do not need for the benefit of those that struggle, wouldn't you think the rewards would be something other than physical? They will be upheld inside yourself. You will begin to feel as if your life has been blessed. Blessed not because you have more, blessed because you are able to do more. Do you understand what I mean? And so that is how one recognizes it.
Thank you. And our final question for today: how do we channel our own inner guidance of consciousness?
The answer is get out of the way. Everyone is a divine being. But when one is focused within the physical world, then that is what you create, being focused in the physical world. When one lets that go, all that remains is that one is devoted to the divine order. But that is not to say everybody does what my dear friend does, because that is not the way for everyone. If everyone were to do that, there would be no movement in consciousness, because it is how one offers oneself in service to the divine. And then the divine will put in its order. Testing the waters, of course, to see whether you have the capabilities. Do you understand what I mean? And the response that one gives allows the divine to rehone its next request. Do you understand then, as you unfold your wings, as it were, along the way you suddenly realize you have become the angel that you thought was in some other realm. Do you understand? The angel is oneself with one's wings opened up.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're ready to wrap up for today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Merc?
This is such an important topic because it is the way in which all of the universal laws operate in the physical world. This is where you see the results. So it is an important test and a testament. A testament is when one has achieved the test. So this is a testament as to one's true purpose. Do you follow what I mean? So it is such an important sequence of lessons to explore. You cannot learn by hearing descriptions. One has to put it into practice, trials and review. What is the result of my experiment? Do you understand? Because that is how one finds one's way out of the desert. Enough for today. Once again, thank you for your time. It always is work for the benefit of all of consciousness. So thank you and good day.